The woman in this video is 18-year-old Samantha Koenig. In mere seconds from now, she is about to meet a tragic fate. Because this man, 33-year-old Israel Keyes, will kidnap her, and Samantha will never be seen again. For the past 11 years, Israel has hidden in plain sight, committing murder after murder, leaving nearly a dozen people dead.
He killed 3 more people, bringing the suspected victim total to 11 now.
But as officers begin hunting Israel down, will they be able to make this serial killer confess?
The media says that Israel Keyes killed 40 people. What we want is the information about those murders.
Or will he get away for one final time?
Why are they afraid I'd actually get away? That wouldn't be embarrassing for the lawyers.
Starting from 2001, a disturbing pattern quietly began to emerge across Washington, Vermont, and New York, as people suddenly vanished without a trace. During that time, nearly a dozen disappearances were reported, triggering investigations and manhunts, yet no one could figure out what had actually happened to them. But 11 years later, by 2012, detectives would finally get their first lead, because surveillance cameras would capture another such incident with the killer in full view. At around 8 p.m. on February 1st, 2012 in Anchorage, this man, Israel Keyes, approaches the Common Grounds Espresso wearing a mask and dark clothing. Inside the coffee stand is 18-year-old Samantha Koenig, working alone during her late-night shift. After ordering an Americano, Israel waits for Samantha to turn around and prepare the drink, then suddenly pulls out a handgun from his pocket and points it directly at her. Samantha, being at the other side of the barrel, is forced to comply, as Israel orders her to shut off the lights and step back. He then climbs inside through the service window, forces her onto her knees, ties her up, and steals the cash from the stand. But robbery was never the real motive. After taking the money, Israel forces Samantha outside, places her into the passenger seat of his white Ford Focus, and drives her back to his home. Unfortunately for everyone, it would be the last time Samantha Koenig was ever seen alive, because from the very beginning, Israel Keyes never intended to let her go. Once Samantha is reported missing, a massive multi-agency manhunt begins, but for nearly a month there's no sign of either her or Israel, until investigators discover Israel using Samantha's debit card in Texas. With Israel traced to Texas, the manhunt quickly shifts there, and in just a few days, on March 13, 2012, deputies in Lufkin pull over a white Ford Focus for speeding and discover Israel behind the wheel. When they searched his vehicle, they found Samantha's debit card, her cell phone, her driver's license, a handgun, and the disguise scene and ATM footage inside it. With enough evidence now tying him to Samantha's disappearance, Israel is transported back to Anchorage, where detectives soon uncover the horrifying truth behind Samantha's fate and the other 10 individuals whom he killed.
You understand that we can't talk about anything to do with the case involving Samantha Koenig. If you do start talking about that stuff, then we'll have to stop the interview. We'll have to take it to the jail. You understand? Yes. Okay. Here, run through your Miranda rights here. I know we've been through before, but we'll run through one more time. All right, now we're done with that. I apologize. We're jumping here, and the first thing I got to tell you, and Israel, we talked about a little bit earlier, that stunt yesterday in court did not go over well. With a lot of folks, not the least of which were the prosecutors. And that was the delay actually with in here is we knew you had some legal questions, and so we reached out for them to say, hey, Israel said you got some questions, are you guys available to speak to them? And I couldn't get one of them was in court, and the other one said, basically after yesterday. So they didn't think that was too funny. And why are they afraid I'd actually get away? that would be embarrassing for the lawyers. It's I don't think that they were looking at it from that perspective. Lawyers just don't like excitement.
The stunt detectives are referring to had actually happened just one day earlier, on May 23rd, during his first court appearance to set a trial date. At one point during the hearing, Israel suddenly managed to slip free from his leg restraints and drive over the handrail toward the gallery seating in the front row. Fortunately, deputies reacted almost immediately, rushing in, tasing him, and quickly regaining control of the situation, the audio recording of which you can hear.
It's filed shortly after the court issued the order in this matter setting today's hearing. Our position is that at this particular juncture, we're not...
Come on,
That certainly wasn't funny to anyone in the courtroom, but for him it seemed more like entertainment than a serious situation. And before we go any further, subscribe if you like watching detectives destroy killers who think they're the smartest person in the room.
Well, it's more of a understanding that they thought we were kind of working towards the goal, and they're working on trying to keeping Vermont on board and doing everything.
I would have sent them an anonymous letter.
Yeah. And so they're kind of wondering where we're at with that. Where are we at with what's changed since yesterday?
More.
Yeah.
What's changed for you, though?
Nothing. Possibly additional charges. Well, I don't understand why it's surprising me that they would take that person. All they really didn't have anything to do with that.
Well, I didn't interpret it as though they took it personally. They're very concerned and very frustrated because I think in their mind, we have a business relationship set up here, and they worked very hard to kind of lay out their position and the things that they thought that they could potentially do that would be in your interest based on the information you've provided. So they felt like we had a business relationship, and they felt like the actions that we took yesterday really kind of threw that out the window. And I gotta be honest, it kind of looked that way from our perspective too.
Oh, I disagree. I mean, honestly, and I know we can't go too far back into some of the original interviews that I had with them, but by their own words yesterday in their opening statement to the judge in court, I feel like they have not been honest with me about what my bottom line has been throughout all this, and that's what I wanted to talk to them about. So I'm not going to take it out on you guys, but I do have some serious issues right now. There's some sort of obvious communication breakdown over the entirety of this whole situation, and it's easy to just sit there and say on the recording, we're not here to talk about the Koenig case, but the fact of the matter is that they're the same people that I talked to about that originally. So you understand my position on that. So I understand I'm not allowed to talk to that, and I respected their wishes about not talking to them about that either without my attorney present, but I have some serious frustrations right now regarding matters related to that. So that's as far as that's concerned, and I don't think it's something that can't be worked out. I've been trying to work it out from my end, but apparently there's only so much I can do. So that's what I wanted to speak to them about, not in a matter of any specifics regarding any other case, just like general topics. Like I say, it's topics that were discussed in open court yesterday. So it's that's a frustration to me right now. They won't talk to me about those topics, but it's okay to talk about it in open court. That's I'm not buying that. So read some of the things that were said in court, and
Some of the things that were said by the
prosecution. I think it was years ago. But he was, from what he said, I was not at all happy with and actually I had heard a day or two before that hearing that was what was going on, and I had no idea, and then to hear it confirmed in court like that was kind of just, was frustrating. So, and honestly, I'm not gonna get all in a tizzy about it until we can at least talk about it and find out what is going on. It's not that I'm not willing to accept the people's explanations for for what's going on. It's just that no one's giving me an explanation.
Well, I guess my thought on that is we've tried to do that, and we'll continue to try to do that, but just keep in mind that all of us are, we're bound by the rules that are set down for us.
Yes.
And in some cases, the rules will be more restrictive than usual, and that's kind of what's going on here, to be perfectly honest,
Because of its high profile.
Well, yeah, there's that, and then, sometimes there's just additional rules that we have to live by, and like the standby counsel thing, frankly, is kind of unusual. We don't run into that very often.
Right.
And there are some other things, and I'm not going to get into it because it's kind of legal stuff, and it's not really my strong suit. But just keep in mind that the attorneys are juggling more things than they normally would.
Right. I agree with you, and I believe you up to a point. It's not like I'm here expecting special treatment. I have no doubts about what my part is in all this. I'm just saying that, from what I've seen and from what my dealings are with them so far, I'm more inclined to put my faith in the things I've heard from them than from certain other people. So,
We know that they have gone through what they're trying to work out, what I think they have worked out with Vermont is unheard of too. I think they.
right. Well,
We were prepared to come and talk to you about that today, and I just that the lawyers are just, they're just not sure where we stand now because of yesterday. They want some assurance that we're still kind of going.
Well, that is a good point. I hadn't even thought of it in that light. That now that it's on the news, people there are going to read it too. So.
Well, and that's the difficulty that they're having. They've been conference calls talking to them saying, I thought this guy was, I thought he's on board. And so frankly, that's why we went through this trouble today to meet with you today, to just kind of, so we could give them a feel for how things are and where we stand and what we can tell them where we stand. And this was just,
Yeah, well, I know it's going to be hard for anybody to accept, but especially them, I would imagine. That didn't really have anything to do with our arrangement.
The arrangement Israel wanted was simple. If he confessed to the murders he had committed, he expected detectives to keep it out of the public eye. But after his outburst in court the day before, that leverage quickly disappears. What he had just done only made it harder for him to stay in a position to negotiate with detectives.
they want some assurance that we're going to be able to go back down that same road that we were on. We've made a major turn.
I don't imagine this will stay strictly between you and me and people in this room, but I believe the people in this room know me well enough now to know that when I say what happened yesterday has nothing to do with our arrangement, like I said, it's not some part of some grand scheme. I already know how this all ends for me. So,
it's good. I think that we can hear that from you. That was an opportunity that happened there, and
right, that's what it was.
Some of the things that they're concerned about and that they're getting questioned about by, like Vermont, for example, because like Jeff said, we know that they had a long conference call with Vermont today trying to explain what happened and answer questions in Vermont. We saw a draft version of the letter, and it was everything you asked for. It truly was. And I think they're trying to answer some pretty tough questions from Vermont right now about basically what.
Right, but even still, from their perspective, come on, let's face it. Yeah, what happened yesterday? Ooh, I'm a bad guy. I tried to escape, but let's be honest. Nobody really thought I was a good guy before that, so it's not like being escaping suddenly makes me untrustworthy. I was kind of untrustworthy before that, so.
At least you have the perspective of, kind of an unrealistic perspective of.
Yeah, I'm not, and obviously, I think you probably especially know that I'm not going to get another opportunity like that, at least not within my lifetime. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell them. All I can say is that, nothing's changed as far as my day-to-day and my reality, it's still the same.
You still envision a way where we can get to meet both of our goals, where we can get what we want out of this.
I think so, but like I say, after yesterday, I had some frustrations of my own. So that was kind of the catalyst that, you know.
So what you're saying is that there's a couple things you cleared up from them.
I do, yeah, and I mean, and honestly, like we've talked about before, like all this other stuff, this like little bargaining chips, whatever you want to call it, you know, that is all one thing, but you know, everybody knows what my bottom line concern is in all this, that I wanted this all wrapped up as quickly as possible. And like I said, I was in open court yesterday, and it's obviously not happening. So that's, you know, and I'm. It's not that, like I said, it's not that I'm pointing the finger or placing blame on you. I haven't even had an explanation of why things are the way they are. So how do I know whose fault it is, or if it's anyone's fault? I don't even know that. But that doesn't mean it didn't, you know, kind of. You know, because I remember, I remember all the interviews we've had. I remember what was said since day one, and my perspective hasn't changed from doing that. Yeah, granted, we've talked about a lot more things since then, but those are all things that I already had in my head before. Just because they're out on the table now, that doesn't change anything from what I wanted originally, what we talked about originally. So,
Great. Tomorrow's going to have a fair amount more media people, unfortunately.
And then arguably, one of the probably biggest potential hurdles now is, you know, we know you indicated you want to represent yourself on the things for which you're not charged. And this could be a huge hurdle now that didn't previously exist.
right. I get that, yeah.
These are all things that all of us are thinking about, but to be honest, they're probably more focused on it than the rest of us. You may not have thought about those things, but that's what they're mulling over.
Right. No, I get that. I get what you're saying. And honestly, I really hadn't thought of it at all until you mentioned it. I was concerned about the media coverage, not really thinking about the effect it would have on the things we've discussed, thinking more about, you know, that is my bottom line. I didn't want a bunch of press and didn't want a bunch of drama. And honestly, I could have lived with the drama as long as I had been successful in escaping. But since I didn't, now I'm like, man, I really wish I hadn't created all this drama.
One of the main reasons Israel Keyes fears media coverage is because he believes his daughter would suffer the consequences of his crimes once he's convicted. And to avoid that, Israel tries turning his own victims into bargaining chips, offering investigators information about the locations of the other bodies in exchange for keeping the case out of the spotlight. At the same time, he also believes he can outsmart the system by acting as his own lawyer, a strategy heavily reminiscent of Ted Bundy, another serial killer Israel openly admires, though he considers Bundy less disciplined than himself, believing Bundy didn't avoid the signature behaviors that usually lead serial killers to getting caught.
You know, it's going to help us move the ball forward. And just to sort of reiterate, they basically said and agreed that they know it's important to you to sort of avoid media attention, you don't want law enforcement identifying you in connection with the courier matter, that they're prepared to do. And they're prepared to continue cooperating. And in exchange, you're agreeing to be truthful about other crimes and
Right.
bodies. And in here, they specifically mention the name of the victim in New York.
Right. They want to know.
Yeah. So, as it says, I'm
Kind of close to them.
and I have a conference call tomorrow with them. And I'd like to be able to tell them that you're continuing to cooperate and provide that.
I do want to continue to cooperate. I'm having some issues as far as this is somewhat of an unrealistic expectation on my part, but I was thinking there might be a way to disclose all this information to you, to the FBI, and to somehow ensure that we could work out some sort of agreement that, I give you all the answers on these cases, and families get closure, and we find as as many of them as possible, and in return for that, I don't plan on being around a whole lot longer, but a really big concern to me is, my kid's going to be around. I don't want her to type my name in the computer and have it pop up. I already know stuff's going to come up. I know that, but I just try to minimize that at this point, I guess. What I was hoping to do, and apparently it's going to be really difficult to get that assurance. So I'm trying to, figure out a way we can still do that. I think there is, I have a few ideas on how to work it out, but
What are your ideas?
well, I'm not sure if they're feasible yet. I've been, talking to different people about it. So, from what can happen from a legal perspective. It's one thing to make assurances, that's great. I mean, if you get some of the stuff on the table for now, it helps us deal with the problems for right now, but, down the road, that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not going to be around, which is fine, but that doesn't change the fact that, just because I'm not connected with it right away, it could happen later. So I'm trying to, I guess, maybe cover myself that way as much as possible and still get you what you need.
Yeah, I think, sort of the plan and draft it up. I mean, this is sort of a good starting point. You're right. I mean, no one can guarantee you that you're never going to be connected to some of these things. What we can do to respond to some of this is create this sort of snowball effect of the jurisdiction.
Right.
And we started with Vermont. I mean, we know, even though we gave Vermont the information up front, we know it's possible.
Right.
Because we just did it. And it will be we're in a better position in other jurisdictions when we go to them and say, all right, look, we've got Vermont down, we've got a body in New York. Either get on board or we're not going to play with you.
Right.
Creates this snowball effect with momentum. No one's going to try to get in the way of that. So, I mean, sort of the plan is sort of lined out here. It's my hope that that's something we can use as a model. We use Vermont as a model, and now it's certainly working. We're taking a big step in Vermont, saying, all right, you know what, you guys, obviously, it's keys to solving at least the courier's crime, and we're going to defer to Alaska, and we're going to give you what you need, but in return, we're not going to say anything. We're going to keep things under the radar. We're not going to make it publicly. We're not going to make a splash, which I think is, as far as law enforcement guarantees and assurances, it's as good as it gets.
The Vermont case is one of the strongest leads detectives have, an incident connected to the disappearance of 49-year-old William Bill Courier and his wife Lorraine Courier. According to Israel Keys, he flew from Anchorage to Chicago on June 2nd before renting a car and driving nearly 1,000 miles to Vermont. One of the reasons Israel targeted the Couriers was because nearly 2 years earlier, he had secretly buried a kill cache near their home, a hidden bucket containing guns, ammunition, zip ties, silencers, and chemicals meant to help dispose of bodies. They also seemed like an easy target to him. Then, on June 8th, Israel finally put the plan into motion. He broke into the home and confronted the couple at gunpoint, tied them up with zip ties, and forced them into their own car before driving them to an abandoned farmhouse. But once inside the farmhouse, things got out of control as Bill fought back, and in response, he was shot dead by Israel. Lorraine, unfortunately, was then left alone with Israel, who then attacked her and murdered her. Until now, Bill and Lorraine were still considered missing persons. Their abandoned car had been found near a dumpster shortly after they vanished, but nobody knew what had actually happened to them until Israel eventually confessed. And when investigators later searched the farmhouse for evidence, they discovered that the building had already been demolished months earlier, meaning the Courier's remains are likely lost forever.
Remember we were talking, we'll give you something to take to Vermont.
Right.
And when we got New York, we went to Vermont and said, because of your cooperation, we got New York. And then that immediately generated this letter of intent. So, but in order to kind of keep, I think, Vermont on board, it certainly would be nice to kind of say, all right, based upon your letter, we also got X, the name of a victim, eradication of the body. And we already have their assurance about the courier matter. You don't have to worry about what's happening with that, because that's all tied up in this. And you can do the same thing with the New York case.
Where are they at with the, did they find the bodies yet?
I think it's a football field and the stuff they're going there. They're making progress, but it's just
It could still be like a couple weeks or something.
yeah, it definitely.
They're not gonna stop.
This is, it's one of the best analogies I've heard for it. It's more like kind of archaeological thing. It is just going through and kind of tossing things, right? And so you find what you think you're looking for.
Got us a lot of trouble. I almost feel guilty. Costing the taxpayers a lot of money. But let's keep my mouth shut.
But that's how committed that, the FBI
No, I
is
understand.
trying to,
Well, it sounds like they've got it. They've got the area. They just got to find it.
Even today, authorities are still searching a location in New York connected to one of Israel Key's possible victims, but so far no body has ever been recovered. What investigators did find, however, was another hidden kill cache buried in the area, containing many of the same items Israel described using in his crimes. And along with that, they would also uncover a drawing made by Israel, one that appeared to reveal how many people he had murdered, before ending with a chilling twist.
If I'm dead, then the investigation from the federal government's point of view is pretty much closed.
Not necessarily. I mean, we're going to do what we need to do to tie up the loose ends. And to the extent that we can do that with your assistance, like we've talked in the past, if we go at this as a team and we have the benefit of your information, it allows us to go hunting with the rifle instead of the shotgun. And there may be things that we might have to follow up on down the road when you're no longer in a position to assist us. But
But our idea is to do this with you so that it's focused, and we won't. And it's not going to get anywhere near like it is in Vermont because we've all learned from that stuff. But the way to get it like that is for us to have to try and figure it out ourselves, and that's what we. I mean, and you know that. You know exactly what we're faced with and what kind of publicity we're all going to be faced with, and questions that we're going to have to answer, and that these other agencies are going to be asking us. And those are the things that we're trying to avoid, knowing that you're the only one that can help us keep this to as little publicity as possible. It's up to you. At some point in time, your choice may be the reality. Could be that Laney and everybody else knows what you did based on what you said you did. Or everybody else, including Laney, is to see the fiasco and the media frenzy that is created by law enforcement trying to figure out what speculating what you did. Because I told you, on the one trip that we looked at surrounding New York, we have 10 viable, people that are missing that we know of. Those are just the ones that are still reported that way. And so if we have to, and we know you didn't do that, but that's what we're looking at in each one of these trips is we're faced with, if you don't tell us, our options are to be public with that agency because we can't ask questions and not expect questions in return. And so we're really living up to our end of the bargain, because at this point in the investigation, if you weren't cooperating with us, this would already have been happening, and the media frenzy would be crazy with us trying to figure it out. Because we do have enough information on the trips, at least to do casework. Right. Not that we're going to come, like you don't think we're going to find anything out, but we have to try. And so, and I know that's tough for you to think about in the future, is that the reality may be that one's worse than the other, obviously. Right. So
especially the one in New York. I mean, the only reason I wanted to show you a picture is these guys at the FBI have been incredibly restrained about asking that part of the country for assistance. Because if they ask that part of the country for assistance, the immediate response is going to be, well, what do you have? Where do you have? And so that's the reason why I'm sitting here throwing, pictures in front of you and going to you first, because, we understand you're cooperating with us. Vermont understands it, and that's why they're on board. And we'd just like to continue that effort instead of, having this whole immediate frenzy too.
Right.
And, with respect to waiting, I mean, there is that whole frenzy that's going to be created, if things slow down, I think. We touched on this last time, is that there may be some benefit at the end of this to, the media says that Israel Keys killed 40 people, which based upon some wild speculation, as opposed to he killed 10, and then also gave closure to those families as some sort of last effort. And I know that doesn't matter to you. It may matter to us. Okay, what about, I'm just thinking about his trip, because he'd asked you these things. Says he's going to be there. He's also with people in Washington. I mean, he already talked to us about Washington. These guys have some pictures.
Washington State.
There's some pictures they want to show you about that.
Well, just to let you know that we did that.
Oh, I found the boat.
So
Had better days.
that cover was a good investment though.
Really?
Well, it's still on.
Good shape. Looks like it's really weak.
We're still in his driveway, just sitting there. He hadn't touched it. So,
Yeah, I have big plans for that boat.
The plans to get the boat.
Oh, I was gonna bring it up here, but bring it up here and put the motor in. But I decided it was time to leave the last one. I probably would have picked it up. Been there for a long time.
Really? So the thing about Washington is a little simpler from his perspective. There's only 2 federal districts there, Eastern and Western. The Eastern is more like Tacoma and Yakima. Western is Seattle.
Right.
Spokane.
Where is this Spokane? Like,
Spokane, Yakima, and then there's Seattle, Tacoma, that's the Western.
right.
And I think he'd like to be in a position to sort of just chat very briefly with one of those criminal chiefs, if not both, if he needs to, sort of lay the foundation.
Well, the problem I am talking about anything related to Washington is not fully involved with the right people, because those are almost positive they're not going to be federal. In the case they're not federal cases.
Well, I think Kevin explained to you
It's
that,
like different stuff. My concern at this point is not knowing, like I say, how current things are going to pan out. The information that I still have could come in handy if I need it. And if I get it out now, I don't think I'll need it in that respect, but you never know. I don't know what's going to happen. And if I get it all out now, particularly, anything about Washington, that could seriously compromise my options, future options.
Israel Keys becomes noticeably anxious when detectives bring up Washington, not just because he committed a murder there, but because so much of his personal life is tied to that state. In 2001, Israel moved to the Makah Reservation in Neah Bay, where he met a woman named Tammy Hawkins online, and the two later had a daughter together. Between 2001 and 2007, Israel worked for the Makah Tribal Council and built a reputation as a dependable handyman and devoted father. To the people around him, he appeared hardworking, reliable, and completely normal. But behind that ordinary image, Israel later admitted that it was also during this period in Washington that he committed his very first murder.
it let me share this with you. That I think is kind of important for the model on how to deal with things. I know that, obviously there were reporters that called maybe friends or family members of you. I think what happened at the outset is, like we said, we provided them the information. They didn't know what they were dealing with at first. They had no idea. And I think someone spoke, out of turn, or out of school, whatever you want to call it, maybe one person over there. And now they realized, oh shit, we shouldn't have said what we said, and they basically shut it down. No one confirmed that story. So I think it's incredibly helpful to have this sort of model going forward and be able to tell them, look, we want to limit media attention.
Right.
New York victim. We want to kind of keep things in one jurisdiction. We want FBI to handle it because we're dealing with something that's more than just your jurisdiction.
Right.
Well, they knew that, it was just, Alaska and the couriers, and oh boy, we've got we caught ourselves, our suspect. They didn't understand the big picture. And I think that's what happened, because that was obviously a concern to us. So they started talking to them, but I think when you get their perspective, I think they realize that, it's something we should be doing. And they realize the severity of it. And now I think we've got a pretty good relationship with them. And we're happy to talk to them as long as they're on board, they're part of the team. And again, we're just building momentum. The next jurisdiction, we can have Vermont, and they've offered to do that, say, they'll reach out to the next jurisdiction simply and say, hey, we did this in our jurisdiction and it worked well, you should too. And this way, we've got state and local officers reaching out to the other jurisdictions, they know who's there, and basically telling them this is a good idea. So really, it gets the momentum, snowballs, and can't be stopped, and no one's going to get in the way. This is a business deal. Agent B explained it. Sort of, it's a business deal. It's kind of strange because, obviously we all have different interests, but that's usually the case in any kind of business deal. Is you have stuff that we want, and we have, things that we can assure you of that, is of some value to you, I think. And so in any kind of business deal, like I said, negotiations, any good negotiations, everybody walks away from the table, not getting exactly what they want. I think, we've basically been able to manage our supervisors that way by saying, look, he's not going to give us everything up front. Okay? He's not going to do it. But we're able to kind of say, hey, but he will maybe give us one at a time and draw it out for a period of time to keep sort of the benefit of the bargain for us. And we're not spending man hours and, going through all the press and media and, other local departments. So, yeah, we're not getting exactly what we want, and you're probably not getting exactly what you want. You probably like to not get us it. Yeah. But, it's a business deal, and, we're keeping up our end of it. I think we can continue to work together as long as we're reasonable.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I figured that was the case. I just wanted to let you know that's what I was thinking.
But know that while we're doing what we're doing, our responsibilities and talking to you and trying to keep this going, there are lots of other people out there investigating trips and airline tickets and phone logs and things like that, doing what police do. And there's going to come a point in time where, when that investigation reaches a point where they think they have some information that they need to act on, where that's the timeline we're going to be pushed up against.
Right. All right.
Having them slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, and the only other thing is on a more personal note, like I was saying earlier, my brothers are visiting this week, and honestly, like I say, that whole thing last week I did not plan out very well, but I would prefer to just try not to think about any of this stuff this week while they're here. It's not that I don't want to, it's just I guess I'm just juggling too many things in my head right now, so. Right. No, I for now, yeah, I agree with you. I think we can keep. I think I can probably tell you everything today, and so being the case that it is, I'm sure we could probably keep stuff under wraps for a year, 2 years, whatever. I'm not worried about that. So there you go. It's the deal. I'm worried about after that. Eventually, my name is going to be attached to it. So if there's a way that I can protect myself from that and still give to you guys what you need, and I'm going to do it. I already, look, I don't need to be punished for these other things that I haven't talked to you about yet, because all these other states, they can't prosecute a dead man, so it's like, what?
Right, but do you think anyone's going to really, do you think Vermont charges for the courage? Do you think they're really going to give you the death penalty knowing that there's more things out there? Do you think they're going to say,
Right,
move
so
forward?
I know,
You're in a catch-22, my friend.
friend.
You're in a catch-22, and we're offering you, what is, I think, your best bet. That's your fault, buddy, but, you're in a catch-22 because Vermont U.S. Attorney's Office, Vermont State isn't going to rush forward and give you what you want, knowing that there's more information.
Yeah, right, they can't give me more anyway. From what I've been hearing lately, at something as serious as a death penalty hearing, they want to review all of the evidence before they make a decision, whether it's
You say they, jury, okay.
jury or input. And obviously, in everything we've discussed, there's a lot of that. I mean, if they're going to review all the evidence, then that's primarily going to be interviews that we've done, in which that information is going to be in that evidence. And so if it's a public hearing, it's going to be, all that's going to become public, and that's exactly what I didn't want from the beginning.
In exchange for, obviously, we're gonna do all those things in advance to get your assurances of non-prosecution, but then you're also controlling the extent of information that comes out. So, I think, look, like I said, it's sort of catch-22. You want to have the death penalty imposed upon you. The more information the jury has, the more likely that would be. But, I guess my plan C is, then at least we can kind of do quantity over details of what happened. I think that, would be
Yeah, the time to do that is at sentencing, not now.
Along with demanding no public media coverage and wanting to act as his own lawyer, Israel Keys brings one more condition to the table. He wants an instant death penalty in exchange for what he has confessed till now. But while Israel believes this gives him leverage, he fails to realize if detectives agree to his request, there would be no Israel left to confess to the many other murders they still believe he committed.
Yeah, so they have all the numbers. That's fine. But that's the only thing they need those numbers for, is the sentence.
Yeah, no, it would only come out at the sentencing, but we'd have to get something in return. And right now, we know about how many people you killed. That's pretty clear. That's not a problem. What we want is the information about those murders. And it could be, briefly, initially to protect your interests, to simply say, this person in this jurisdiction kidnapped him from here. And, that would satisfy our goals, and would also satisfy your goals, I think, too. But again, we don't have to figure out what we want to get out of this. And it's possible to limit that information that's presented, I think, at a sentencing hearing. Again, I have to vet this up the chain, but, we can limit courier, we can limit Coney in exchange for the information about the other stuff.
See, this process with the death penalty on the table is a whole new thing for all of us. But we have had many cooperation agreements where there's a sealed death plea agreement, proceedings are closed, where information is not made public, in order to protect, somebody who's cooperating, or in this case, protecting the family of somebody who's cooperating.
That's a good point.
And so that's something that I'd like to discuss with Israel.
Yeah,
So
that's something that, is sort of a plan A of things we can do is, hopefully put everything under seal and justify it by, one, safety to your family, and two, the fact that these guys are still going to be confirming the information they're providing. And they don't want anybody to interfere with that process. So some of that, again, as Mr. Greger said, it's taken within the minutes of the death penalty, but it's in some ways the same as what we always do in other types of cases involving cooperation and stuff goes under seal.
that's what I'd like to talk to you
I hear what you're saying as far as it has to be done, but what I'm doubtful about is the motivation for doing it. Your motivation, or the FBI, whoever sanctioned that, their motivation for doing it in the way that they did it.
Well, hey, like you said, you're going to be suspicious of us, we're going to be suspicious of you, but frankly, when we sat down in this room, everyone here tried to play straight with you. And I think if you understand the reality of the situation, and you're a pretty reality-based guy, and you understand how the world works, is, once you stop telling us significant information about other crimes, then these guys couldn't control what the rest of the FBI is going to do. And the playbook says, if you've got a serial killer, you're going to have to go through that house, right, with a fine-tooth comb. Even though they can say, hey, Israel's told us there's nothing there. Well, they're going to do it. And the only way to hold that off is to say, well, look, he's cooperating with this information. But when you stop, then there's going to be consequences. We're trying to be reality-based about this thing. We've always given you what we thought was actually going to happen in the real world. And it's the same thing from Vermont. If we had more information from Vermont, maybe Vermont would have been a whole lot more quiet and cooperative. As it is, they've been really cooperative, right? They haven't filed any charges, but how long can we hold off on them without another piece of information? So,
you're a reasonable person. Don't you think use somebody else for an example, like this type of case, someone who's not cooperating and not talking with law enforcement? Don't you think that if this would have been viral across the United States, every place you've ever been? Don't you think that? I mean, if you hadn't been talking to us, we don't have any other choice but to try to do it on our own and use all the information that we put together about you and your whereabouts and put it out to those communities for help. And we haven't done that because you've been talking with us.
For the next half hour, Israel Keys refuses to talk about any other crimes, but days later he finally changes his mind and tells detectives what really happened to Samantha, at least. After abducting her from the coffee stand, Israel took Samantha to a shed on his property in Anchorage. He falsely promised that she would be released if her family paid a ransom, but kidnapping was never his true motive. Inside the shed, he attacked and murdered her before leaving her body there. The next day, Israel left on a pre-planned 2-week cruise in the Gulf of Mexico with his girlfriend and daughter. After he returned to Alaska on February 18th, he then sent a text message from Samantha's phone to her boyfriend, demanding $30,000 in ransom. Samantha's family, believing that she would still be alive, complied and transferred the amount. After receiving the money, Israel disposed of Samantha's remains in Matanuska Lake, even going ice fishing in the same area afterward to blend in and avoid suspicion. He then flew to Texas to begin withdrawing the ransom money. Israel's killing spree started from 2001 to 2012. Somehow he had managed to avoid capture largely because he almost always used cash and carefully planned every crime. In the end, investigators believe the one mistake that finally exposed him was using Samantha's debit card. But despite all his demands and negotiations, the court never gave Israel Keys what he wanted most, the death penalty.
See, this process with the death penalty on the table is a whole new thing for all of us. But
Like I said, so the catch-22, you want to have the death penalty imposed upon you.
For that reason, on December 2nd, 2012, at exactly 5:57 a.m., Israel Keys took his own life inside his prison cell. Underneath his bed, authorities discovered several drawings made with his own blood, including one showing 12 skulls, 11 representing the victims he confessed to killing, and the 12th symbolizing himself. He also left behind a note. Though much of it was unreadable because of the blood covering the pages, investigators somehow recovered one haunting line. "You may have been free. You loved living your lie. Fate had its own scheme. Crushed like a bug, you still die." We hope you enjoyed today's video. 85% of our viewers aren't subscribed, so if this is the kind of content you come back for, just hit subscribe. It's the single biggest thing you can do to support the channel. If you want to keep watching more, check out one of the most intense cases we've ever covered right here, or catch up on our latest upload right here.